Sitting on the front porch with family or friends brings a cherished sense of comfort and connection.
Just do a little bit. Welcome to Wisdom on the Front Porch. And your front porch is wherever you happen to gain wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and going that way. I loved being able to snap beans or peas or, peel apples, things like that with my grandmother on her porch while my aunts and uncles and my mom and dad would all talk about their stories and their lives and what they learned from each other, both in the past and currently. And I love that. And so, as part of the podcast, that's what I want to offer to you, my audience, that we talk about the journey and what's going on, what works, what doesn't work. And my guest today is Aaron DeVries, who's going to help me do exactly that. So, hi, Aaron. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So, you're the inclusive dad. Let's talk a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Absolutely. My name is Aaron DeVries. I'm from Minnesota. The inclusive dad. I have two children. My son is 23. My daughter will be 22 on October 10th. So coming up here. But I got into the inclusive dad stuff. My daughter was diagnosed at 3 months old with epilepsy, and then other diagnoses. So thrown into the disability special education world. So the inclusive dad is me. I'm spreading the word about inclusion, including people with disabilities, with non-disabled people. So that's my message, and I help families navigate the special education process. I didn't know anything about it before my daughter was born, so I'm just wanting to share some of the wisdom I've learned over the years to help families, make it easier, not take all the discomfort and pain away, but at least try to make it a little bit easier, helping them navigate that process.
That's awesome. Awesome. So you're doing what you wish someone would have had available for you.
Yes. Yep.
That's really cool because, people just don't expect anything to happen until it
Right.
does. And then what do? Where do they get the information? So as
Absolutely.
part of Wisdom on the Front Porch, because we do talk about being entrepreneurs and what we do, why did you decide, and I guess we kind of have your why of why you decided to do what you're doing, but now maybe I need to ask this. Have you gone from having a full-time job to being a full-time entrepreneur right now?
So currently I have a part-time job that I work for somebody else. Then I also get paid to be a respite care provider for my daughter. So
Okay.
she lives with her mom full time. But I get paid for her to come over. Well, when she comes over, I get paid when she's here up to a certain number of hours a week, which honestly is it's nice that I get paid for it. It's a little bit weird since I'm her dad. I'm getting paid to take care of her, but that's just she requires a level of care where this way we can keep her in the home as long as possible. So that's kind of why we do that. So I have the part-time job, help with my daughter, and then the entrepreneurial stuff is on the side of that. So right now I kind of have three things going. My goal is to for sure get rid of the part-time job, but I'm not there yet. So that's kind of where I'm at in the process right now.
Cool, cool. That's that's really great. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs are, is we've got to have another job to help pay
Yep.
for the bills and stuff while we build up this business because it's very different being an entrepreneur. It's tough when you have your own brick and mortar building too, but um there's just a different aspect of it, of being an entrepreneur. You're home, you're doing stuff, but you're still doing your job, you're still going through it. I guess, that's like a brick and mortar building too. I shouldn't exclude that out because I've never had one.
Right.
But it's still a journey. So let's talk a little bit about the process. Um, I'm trying to figure out the right words. This is my first podcast going with this particular style that I kind of want to pattern the rest off of. So
Sure.
we're going to try and make it right here. So let's kind of talk about life is going along, you've got a full-time job, you never thought about being an entrepreneur, you're just going through, and then boom, something happens that changes the path that we're taking. So for you, what was that change?
So honestly, there's been a couple times where I've tried to get this business, The Inclusive Dad, under not this name all the time, but helping families out with the special education process, that part of it, and just I've not gotten as far along as I have this time. Just, I mean, life happens, and you get, sometimes you get to a point, well, I need to pay the bills. So, and, I need
Yeah.
to, you make that choice. And so this time, and also kind of what I went up against the previous times was I would get to spots where I'd start feeling uncomfortable. And then instead of like trying to do work on myself or figuring out why I'm uncomfortable, it was easier just to be like, okay, I'll just, stop doing that and go back to the job. So, but the real reason I wanted to pursue it this time, and also to stick with it and work through those self-development type things, is just the flexibility for me is like the main thing. I've
Okay.
always been I've always been a person where I grew up. My dad and grandpa started a manufacturing welding shop, building vegetable equipment in the 70s. So I grew up around, that. So I mean, my dad had potatoes, so I planted potatoes, weeded potatoes. I can weld. There's just a lot of things I can do. So I've never really been afraid of any type of work, to make money. So I
Right.
have that in me. And then for a period of time, I put out magazines. So like at Walmart, you see all the magazines, up front by the registers or in the back. I did that for a while. So I mean, just kind of, I find these weird, I mean, not weird, but not normal jobs people think of, to make money. So that's never been an issue. So I'm just really the flexibility. And that's like, I talked about what I'm doing now. So I have it set up pretty good where it's all, I'm very flexible. So, like next week I'm going on vacation. So, this week I'm doubling up on appointments for my part-time job to, get my hours in and do that stuff. So for me, like, it's the flexibility. Or my daughter has an appointment, on Thursday or something, I can rearrange it. So it's just a lot of helping people, but also the flexibility that comes with it, where, today I want to do something, go fishing, I go fishing, and, I can rearrange
Nice.
stuff. So it's just for me, it's the just the pure flexibility. And then also, like, I've learned more that for me, the way my brain works is if I work for somebody, I look at like the systems that are in place, and then they're not working the way I think they should. And then from my experience, when I brought up those things, I maybe haven't been the right, maybe organization, but I bring it up and then nothing happens. So it's frustrating. So I've also, I mean, I'm getting older. I realize that I'm better off working like for myself as
Mhm.
much as possible, so I don't have to, deal with that part. And then just, I can, well, I mean, I'm my own boss, so I can, for this part, so I can, if I want to do, like I said, this today, I can do it. I don't have to really answer to anybody for that. So it's just, that's kind of why I'm heading down this path. And like I said, I'm the last, well, what has it been, like 6 months now? A lot of stuff's been happening. So just the last 6 months has been a lot where I'm just trying to do a lot of personal development stuff, putting
Mhm.
myself out there. Did a TEDx talk 10 years ago, did my second one
Oh, wow.
this year. I've been on a number of podcasts. I started my own podcast in August, so I got that going. So I'm just also just kind of, these doors are opening, so I'm just going through them and just kind of seeing where it takes me. So it's been a pretty fun journey so far. So that's kind of how I got to where I'm at in my entrepreneurial journey right now.
Wow, that was really great. And you mentioned something that a lot of entrepreneurs go through is it got really uncomfortable.
Yes.
You know, I'm giving a talk on Saturday
Yep.
for the mastery event for Connected Leaders Academy.
Yep.
And one of the things I talk about is Les Brown said to me, "You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable."
Right.
And I couldn't wrap my head around that, but you gave a great example of it. You got really uncomfortable moving into something, things you hadn't done before, and it was just a little overwhelming. So you pulled back
Right.
and stopped. But now you've gone on and you've gone to different directions. You're doing work on yourself. Makes such a difference.
It does.
Getting our mindset and finding out why we're being uncomfortable. Yeah. I need to practice on not saying,
It's okay. I mean, for me,
I'll get there.
one of the things what I realized in the last 6 months is like, I'm not like a full on perfectionist, but I have like hints of it. So I would, if I say I'm going to do something, like if I ended up not like following through completely, I would get super hard on myself. So like really
Oh,
hard on myself too. So I just, once I recognize it, then it's like, you kind of see it, you notice it more and like, hey, don't do that. Like you're trying to do this again. So just, figuring out stuff and then recognize it. And then, not being too hard on myself is a big thing. Cause I would be like, if I didn't do it 100%, I'm failing, when it's like, no, that's not completely true. Like you did most
that's
of it
right.
except for that piece. So don't be so hard on yourself. So a lot of it's been related to like self-compassion, or just, you did really well, better than you've ever done before. So why are you still upset at yourself for not,
Yeah,
doing it completely now? So yeah, just a lot of that.
absolutely. Yeah, we need to do those celebrations for the things that we did do right and give
Absolutely.
ourselves, because we are our cheerleader, our best
Yep.
cheerleader, and we need to do that. Um, One thing that someone had said to me is, the way you're talking to yourself, is this the way you would talk to your best friend?
Yep.
And it's like, oh no, I would never talk
Yep.
to anybody like that. Then why am I doing it to myself?
Yes, for sure.
So yeah, that's a great one to bring up. I am not a perfectionist in any way,
Yeah.
but I do like to see things done right, and I like to
Yeah.
see it. Um, I want it to be received well, and I feel like if I haven't done that, then I failed. But no, what I've done is I've learned what I shouldn't do next time
Right.
and what I can do next time to make it better. And that's the one thing, we keep trying to make things better. What are some of the most difficult things besides the uncomfortableness? What are some of the other things that have been really difficult as an entrepreneur?
Um, I feel like another thing for me is just switching like my mindset around. I mean, I've always worked for somebody getting paid like by the hour. So just when
Mhm.
you're starting to work with clients, and I'm just kind of this is more trying to price things more for like the value that they see in it than just, like this amount an hour. So just trying, how I view money, or how I see money, that piece of it. I didn't explain that super well, but just like I said, I've always been like, I make, $25 an hour. So then how does that equate to this? And that doesn't,
Oh,
it
yeah,
doesn't, it's weird. Like, hey, I need to charge, let's say 75 or $100 an hour to be able to pay the bills. It just feels super weird, that much of an increase, when you switch your mindset around, like how much value am I providing? And you
oh,
realize that,
yeah,
like the amount of value that people place on me helping them and making, their life easier, that much stuff, the number is much higher than what is easy for me to throw out there. So you just trying to, figure out what's a number I can throw out there that I'm not going to puke in my mouth right away, but understanding that it is worth that much to somebody to pay me to do it. So that has been
right.
kind of another struggle.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that is one thing that when you're starting out, it's like, well, what do I charge for this? What are other
Right.
people charging? Okay,
Yep.
maybe they're charging 10,000 for this,
Yep.
but they've been doing it for 20 years. And
Yep.
it's like, I've only been doing it for 6 months. So how do I justify that?
Yeah.
And it can be very difficult at times. I think this is where it's important to find um, probably a mentor would be
Yep.
better than a coach, because a mentor can guide you to some places, like how to think about it. Well, who do you know that's doing this? What kind of wages are they getting, and why are they getting it? And all of that. Yeah, that's a really good thing to bring up. You had said something else, and it's just leaving my mind right now. I was just thinking, yeah, I just talked with somebody about that yesterday. Um, but I think it had to do something with finding what you're worth. Um,
Hmm.
One of the things that I was thinking of was going back to work, and it's like, because sometimes, I was getting a little uncomfortable, and it's like I'm
Yep.
not where I want to be, and I'm pushing myself hard. You do
Yep.
push yourself so hard, and it's like, but where can I go to work that will bring in the income that I'm getting here?
Right.
and that I know I can make, to where if I stop this, even just to go to work to bring in some extra income, well, now I've lost all that momentum, and I'm
Right.
gonna have to gain that back. It's gonna take me longer to do it because it just seems to take longer once you stop. Now, that's not a pause. We're talking about a stop, actual stop.
Right.
Um, and I don't know, maybe you found that out, that it was harder to get going again, or maybe you needed to go in a different directions, from when you stopped the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that is, yeah, it's true, because yeah, you get some momentum and then you stop, and then it does seem like it takes longer, because those people that were watching you, I think too, they're watching you, and then you stop, and now that you're doing it again, and they're watching you to see, are you going to keep going this time, or are you
Yeah.
just going to have that short burst again? So I feel like that's part of it too. But
Oh, yeah.
another thing for me is, I was actually on a Connected Leaders Academy call back in March. Somebody talked about human design. I'm not sure if you're familiar with like human design, the different. So it's based on your, I think, birth day, birth time, and where you were born, and then there's sites where you put in for free, and it gives you this chart of your human design, and there's different types of people. So based on that, it's you have a different people type, and I realized that my type is one where it's more, I just kind of have to trust my intuition, and it's not the generator one where you're just going. I don't have that much energy. So I'm just realizing that it's okay if I need to take a break, or, just listen to my body, do these things. And now once I've started, listening to my body, and like I said, I've been doing a lot of fishing this summer, so I need to go fishing, and I'm in a better like mental spot. My energies.
Doing self-care.
Yeah, okay, doing self-care and taking the
Yeah.
time for that. That's made a big difference. So that's another thing. It was just taking the time to do self-care. I don't need to work 12 hours a day. If I need to, my body's telling me to take a break. So I mean, that's been another huge thing for me. I think this time too is just trying to listen to the body, and like that stuff will be
Yes.
there tomorrow. It's not, most of it doesn't have to be done this second. Just take the time. So
And that's really true. I found that out myself, is I actually schedule time in my schedule
yep.
to where I don't do anything during this time. I make sure I take my 14-minute walk,
Yep.
and I can talk more about that later. And I didn't even realize it was self-care. It's like I knew I needed to take a break. Sitting here all day, going through this, setting up my schedule, setting up a strategic plan, setting up a solid structure and foundation for what I'm doing. And just starting out, it's hard to know which direction to go.
Yep. For sure.
Do I need to go this way? Well, it doesn't matter. Just go in a direction, and you'll find out if it's the right one or not. And then you change it to go the direction you need to go. And you keep reevaluating that. We talk about leveling up and different things like that, but um, it's important to know that it's okay to take different directions, because that's when you have more doors open up to you.
Yep. For
Um,
sure.
yeah, I like what Vivian Hollenbeck said. Eric was saying it on his show, The Craftsman. He says, Vivian says we're a closed door. It is a closed door system, to where we go down this one rabbit path and the door closes behind us because we don't need to go through it anymore. And now we're going through the beaver trail, and this door closes behind us because we don't need to go through it anymore. We're going through the next one. And so it's kind of like, yeah, we keep going to the next one where we go to. It's like when you come to a fork in the road, you're going to go right or left, you
Absolutely.
know, and you can't go straight. You can't keep doing what you've been doing. That's how you ended up where you are. So now you need to go a different direction. And
Absolutely.
it's okay to do that. And you brought up a good point, taking a pause, the time to stop, to go take care of yourself. And then that gives you time to think about where your business is going. Am I going down a rabbit hole to nowhere? Do I
Right.
need to get out of there and stop it? Am I just going around in circles? Time to get off the merry-go-round and go down the right road. And we need that pause to make sure that we're doing the right thing, or is there something more we can do? And taking that break, getting away from everything, get your mind off of it, get your head clear. So when you come back in, you are ready to go. It's like,
Absolutely.
oh, I didn't see that before. I'm glad I took that break. Now I
Right.
can see it. So celebrate that. Yay,
Yeah,
I got to go fishing.
for
Yay,
sure.
I got my mind clear.
Yep.
But yeah, when I talk about writing in your journal at night, doing your morning and evening routine, get all of that stuff out of your head, put it in your journal. It's there. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be there when you wake up in the morning. And if you need to pick it up and put it back in your head, you can do that. It's right there to do it. Or
Yep.
you might say, wow, I'm glad I did that because now I figured out what I needed to do. And then you go on from there. So that's always a good thing. So we've talked about starting out. Your why is well, I'm going to let you tell your why. Why is it that you want to help other people who are going through? And I'm going to go out on a limb here and saying they're being excluded from things because I don't know why. You would know why.
Yeah, I mean, my why is just like I said, my daughter, another going deeper into her story, she qualifies under multiple categories. So there's 13 categories you qualify for special education. She qualifies under multiples of them, including she uses a wheelchair. So, like I said, I didn't know anything about special ed. So the school's, saying she needs to go to this program, which happened to be across town. And it
Oh,
was like a
wow.
segregated, program in a room down a hall with at least one set of doors that closed off from the school. So that was her first where she went after, so like kindergarten, starting in kindergarten. One day I went to visit her at lunchtime, and other kids in that classroom were folding towels. I don't remember if she was in kindergarten or like first, second grade, but the kids were around that age and folding towels. And I can remember thinking, like, why are they not in math or reading class learning that stuff? I mean, why are we already having them fold towels? Because to me, that seemed like we've already given up on them, being able
Oh,
to,
okay.
learn math and reading. So that kind of opened my eyes, and then found out about inclusion, having her in the classroom with her peers. But since she was already out of that setting, trying to get her back in was a battle for us her whole school career, because now there seemed to be more barriers in place than if she would have been there to begin with.
Oh,
So
wow.
just for me, the way the system is supposed to work is that you're supposed to try in the general ed class first, and then if that doesn't work and you can't modify stuff and that kind of thing, then maybe move to a different one. So to me, the system, at least in our experience or in other places I've heard of, is not set up the way I feel like it should be. And I just feel like that's wrong. We've had other situations where they built a new school in town, and I was at a PTA meeting, saw the blueprint on the screen, and there was a door labeled special education entrance. And this is when my daughter was in like fourth or fifth grade. So, I mean, way after ADA was passed, not in the
Right.
2000s. And I remember sitting there, I'm like, am I reading that correctly? Like, how is that even possible? If we go to Walmart, there's not a separate door for her to go in there. Like, why is it okay for a school to have a separate door? So just that, those types of things. 10 years ago, she loved choir. So 10 years ago, her choir was going to sing with another group, I think, but they were doing it at a historic theater in town, which didn't have a ramp to get her up on stage. So I ended up taking her out of her chair, carrying her up the steps, placing her on a chair, and then having to go back and get her when she was done. So I've just had these series of things where it's just, to me, it's not right. ADA was passed in early 90s. We shouldn't have to have laws, I guess, honestly, to, make stuff accessible or have people included, in my opinion. So just, wanting to make these inequities, injustices, whatever we want to call them, try my best to spread the word about stuff that is happening, and, bring awareness to it, and then help, overcome, for at least some people, help them get through those. And then more globally, just talk about inclusion, try to spread the word. And I feel like on my podcast, I talk a lot about just what's your definition of inclusion? What are things we can do, simple things each day to be more inclusive? Because I think sometimes, for me at least, I got in my brain, it's got to be this big fancy, 10-year plan to make stuff more inclusive. It's like, no, you don't have to do that. Just, include somebody, invite them over for invite them over onto your porch to have a conversation or just say hi, just simple things. So just trying to get that message out there as well.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a lot. You're talking about the ADA thing, and I'm sorry that I didn't write it down, but yesterday I watched a program on TV that was about the gentleman who started the ADD, what he went through, and he'd gone to battle, he got injured, and then he was upset because all these other people weren't getting the help they needed.
Right.
And he talked, you know, they talked about when the bill passed, and I think that's the right word to use. And he was in a bar, and the bartender was complaining about, I'm going to have to get this fixed, I'm going to have to do that, and I'm going to have to do this. And he goes, yeah, too bad for you. You're going to have to spend just a few $1,000s to make it able for more people to come in, spend more money at your bar, and
Right.
that kind of thing. But he really brought up the points that we don't need to change. It was kind of like we don't need to change everybody's mind about it, but the business owners need to change the perspective of the way that they're looking at things.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's really cool because, it's so hard to change people, but changing
Right.
perspective is really not that hard. We do it a lot as entrepreneurs. When things aren't going right, we have to change our perspective just a little bit to look at it from a different angle, see what's going on.
Right.
And come up with great ideas because of that. I love what you're doing, that when you're bringing attention to something that is not right, but you're not just leaving it there. You're not just banging on a drum saying, hey, this isn't right. You're actually trying to find solutions for it, trying to find ways,
Right. Yep.
and you're there to help other people who are maybe going up against these obstacles. And you're saying, yes, I've been there too, or I've heard of so and so that's been there. Here are some things that they did. Is this something you can do? And that's wonderful. And you've been on 2 TEDx stages. That's incredible. It seems
Thank
like
you.
a lot of people say, oh, I've been in TEDx, but it's really difficult to get on a TEDx stage. Yeah. So
Thank you.
how did you manage that?
So I'm 2 for 2. So I've applied twice and gotten accepted twice, which I feel is
Awesome.
not common either. So,
No, it's
but
not.
yeah, the first one was in Austin, Minnesota, where I live. I applied, to that, got in. I told the story about bringing her up on stage. I mean, we're less than a mile from where it actually happened. So that one was very emotional for me. Talked about a lot of stuff in public I never talked about before in public. So it was very emotional. The second one was this year. Like I said, it was 10 years, like my 10-year anniversary. So I'm like, hey, it'd be cool to do another one, like a 10-year anniversary. I came across an opportunity. I got my master's degree at the University of South Dakota, and they were hosting one this year. So I applied to that one and got in. And so I gave mine where I got my master's. So my tip I have for like trying to get in TEDx is, I feel like part of how I been successful is trying to find a spot, a TEDx that's being put on where you have a connection to it. Like the first one was in my hometown. People that were on the selection committee I knew who they were, knew who my daughter was. And then the second one, like I said, I got my master's there. So I don't know if that's for sure why I got in, but like, I feel like it can't hurt to try to find a stage where you have some kind of a connection to it. I feel like that has to help. So
Awesome.
but yeah,
That sounds really great.
they were both pretty good experiences. My first one I gave 10 years ago has like over 19,000 views on YouTube. So if you look up Aaron DeVries TEDx, they both should come up, I think. So yeah.
That's great. That's great. Sorry if you can hear the dog in the background. We have a new puppy and she doesn't like being excluded. She has her own issues.
Yeah, for sure.
But now that your daughter's getting older, she's out of school, I'm imagining, right?
So she actually it goes till the day before she turns 22. So she's in like the 18 to, they used to call it 21. Now I guess it's 22.
Okay.
So on her the day before her birthday in October will be her last day in traditional school. So yeah, so now we have the that stuff. So yeah, we're not really 100% sure what she's. Well, actually, that's not true. That is not true. She applied to go to take college classes at the community college in town and got accepted, which is crazy because I didn't. If I'm being completely honest, I didn't see that kind of in her future. But so she did that. She wanted to do it. She applied and got in. So I'm super proud of her. So in January, she'll be taking, I think she's taking one like computer class. So
Okay.
that's what she'll be doing after in the new year, I guess. So yeah.
Thanks for listening to Aaron DeVries on Wisdom on the Front Porch. This is part 1. Be sure and tune in for part 2.
Thank you for joining us today on Wisdom on the Front Porch with your host, Ellis Kirkpatrick. You can find us on our website, wisdomonthefrontporch.com, see previous episodes of the podcast, and view issues of the magazine. Did you know you can submit questions, leave reviews, or suggest topics? You can also tell us where your favorite front porch location is and what it means to you. We hope you gain value and insight from today's or previous talks. We appreciate your support for us so we can continue to provide value and expertise to you and others. Subscribe to Wisdom on the Front Porch magazine and receive a second year absolutely free. This is a limited time offer available exclusively to those who mention the name of today's podcast. Join in next week when we bring you another great insight into the world of entrepreneur culture and lifestyle. Make today a great day. Always believe that something wonderful is going to happen.